Hello, everybody. Coach Greg from Team Next Level. Me and the other coaches decided that, or thought that it would be a good idea to have a little tire changing clinic so that if you guys get stuck on the roadside with a flat, you know how to fix it. So we're going to walk you through that process and I'll show you how to go about doing it so that if you end up with that flat tire, you know what to do. So first thing, we've got Rich's beautiful bike over here. He doesn't have a flat on this bike and we're not going to mess with his bike. But one of the most things that people struggle with a lot is actually getting the tire out of the bike. So one of the things I want to show you guys is if it's a front tire flat, no big deal. Tire comes out easy all the time. If it's a back tire, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. So one of the things that is important is to shift your bike down into the lowest cog in the back. So you want to be in this small cog in the back. And if you are, the tire will come out much, much, much easier. So this is kind of a fun little trick to get that tire in the lowest spot, because what I've got to do is I've got to hold the bike tire up, I've got to shift it down, and I've got to pedal the things. So that's three hands that you don't have. So this is kind of a fun little thing. You can have a friend do it, or hold it up with your neck, and then you can shift it down until you're in the lowest cog. Once you're in that lowest cog, this wheel comes out very simply. Rich has got through axles on here. You might have quick releases or whatever, so the process might be different. This comes out, and then once you're in that lowest cog, this wheel will pop out very easily. Okay, you won't have to fight with it. You won't have to get grease all over your hand or anything else. If it's that back tire, what you should do now is lay this bike down so that the drivetrain is facing up. You don't want to lay the bike down with the derailleur and stuff on the ground. You might throw something out of whack. So just lay that bike down flat like that, and everything will be good until you come back to it the next time. All right, so we're going to put Rich's tire back in.
Any tricks to how you put that tire back in?
Yeah, so try not to touch the chain too much. So what you're going to do is you're going to drape the chain over. You know that you shifted into that smallest cog, so you're going to put the chain on that small cog. And then the only thing you might need to touch is this jockey wheel right here. And you can push that down a little bit, and then it pops right in. Okay. Rich has got disc brakes here, so you want to make sure that disc brake goes into the caliper properly. Otherwise, super simple. I got a tiny little bit of grease on my finger, but nothing too bad. All right, the odds are it'll come off the front chain ring, but you should be able to just pedal it back on and you're good to go. Okay, so now you've got the tire out. We've got our stand-in tire here. First thing you're going to need to do is to unmount or take the bead off of the tire.
Before we get to those, maybe we just go through all of the tools you're going to need to change the tire.
Cool, good idea. So I've got a couple of things out here on the side table with me. I've got my spare tube. I really like to keep my tube in a little Ziploc baggie with a little bit of baby powder in there. That makes it, the tube acts as like a lubricant, so when you're putting the tube back in, you don't get a pinch flat. I've got a couple of different tire levers in my saddle bag with all my little toolkits in it. I usually keep 2 or 3.
Why do you need 2 or 3?
Well, we'll get to that when I take the tire off. I love these little Park tool ones. The heavier duty plastic, the better. And the thing I find the most helpful is if they have like a little rounded edge on here to help get under the tire and unseat the bead. These work well also. These are a little bit flatter, but they're also a little bit flexier. So I've broken these before. And then at home, I kind of have a big one, a big heavy metal tire lever. Get a little bit more leverage on it, really be able, if sometimes those tires are tough to get on, especially the first time. So the metal one is good, but you have to be careful with it because you can damage the rim. And then I've got something to reinflate the wheel with. In your saddle bag, you're probably gonna have something like this, CO2 cartridge and a little inflator chuck. You'll screw the CO2 cartridge on, that'll puncture it, and then you'll be able to fill up your tire from there. All right, so those are all the tools you should need to get the tire off. I would suggest, go ahead, Rich.
There are different CO2 cartridges and chunks that you can get. Some of them are sophisticated where they have levers to release the CO2. And then there are threaded and non-threaded CO2 cartridges. So based on what chunk you have on top, you should pay attention to whether you need a threaded CO2 cartridge or a non-threaded
Right.
one.
The ones without threads are a lot cheaper, but then they're going to need a special inflator that usually like has a plastic doohickey that like will push the cartridge into the needle inside here. They also come in different sizes, 12, 16, 20, and 25 grams based on how much CO2 is in here. The bigger your tires are, the bigger cartridge you're going to need to fill it up to the proper CO2. Talk to your bike shop. They'll be able to tell you what size CO2 cartridge you need. I usually go with 16 or 20 grams for bigger road tires.
As an alternative, there are also hand pumps that are pretty small now that you can carry with you.
Yeah, hand pumps are a great option too. Okay, so we've got a pretend flat here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get this tire off with just my fingers. So I'm going to pull. Sometimes it's on the bead very tightly.
Does it matter where you start to pull it off?
To pull it off, it does not. Okay, but I'm going to pop it off the bead, and if I hold it close to my mic, you should be able to hear that bead popping off. Okay. And now you only need to take one side of the tire off to get the tube out. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your tire levers and you're going to hold it underneath the wire bead. And then once it's underneath, you're going to use it as a lever, tire lever, and pop it. Couldn't do that again if I tried. You're going to take your other one, you're going to hold it underneath, and you're going to lever that thing up. Can I have that one back, James? Thank you, sir.
Thanks to our race director.
Yeah. Okay, so this is why you might need two of these. This one has a little hook on it. You can take this and you can align it with one of your spokes. And as you do this, it will latch onto the spoke. And then that will hold that one in place, act as an extra hand for you. And then you can grab one of your second tire levers, get it under the piece you already started, and you can work your way underneath. Now I've got this under the bead, and I'm just going to work my way around.
What if you don't have one that holds onto the spoke?
So if it doesn't hold onto the spoke, you're going to have to hold it onto the spoke. You're just going to have to hold it with one hand like this, and then you'll take your second one, and you'll run your second one all the way around. Okay? You're going to run it all the way around the tire. Okay? And now we've undone one side of the tire. If you really want to, you can take the whole tire off at this point. You can usually at this point work it off with your fingers. Okay? Now the tire is off. The tube is in there.
Do we need to take the tire off?
You don't need to. You can leave. The only thing I would say, if the tire is on there nice and loosely like mine was, and it comes off easy, I would take it off for what I'm about to show you. So the tube is going to come out. This is garbage. Make sure you fold it up, put it in your jersey pocket, take it with you. Don't leave it on the side of the road.
If you don't have a spare one and you have a repair kit,
right,
we have to create another video.
They do sell little repair kits. You can patch the hole. Okay. You want to try and find out where the hole is on that tube, though. Okay, because if there's something in your tire that's causing that hole, it's very possible you put a new tube in, it's going to create a hole as soon as you inflate that tire. So that's why I like those little hand pumps. You can fill this up with just a little bit of air and see if you can feel where the leak is coming out. If you don't have that, like right here now, we've got just a cartridge. I don't want to waste the air in this cartridge. I get one try with this. So this is going to go in my jersey pocket, tuck it away. But what I am going to do now is that's why I took this whole tire off. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to run it through the entirety of the rim, or the tire, sorry. And I'm going to feel for any kind of thing. Sometimes what happens is a little piece of glass or a little piece of wire from the road will get caught, will get stuck in there, and it'll be sticking out the inside. So do this, feel for any kind of things that are going through the casing. You can pop it this way and sort of look on the inside of the casing to see if there's anything that's sticking through. If it is, just take it out and then you're good to go. The tire, like, unless it's huge, this tire is still usable and will definitely get you home as you repair it. So right now, okay, I didn't find anything, so maybe it was just a pinch flat or something like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remount one bead of the tire. Here it doesn't matter what side you do. Now, this is not necessary, but it is a good thing for future flats. It's good to orient the sticker or the label on the tire with the valve hole. And what that'll do is if you figure out where that hole was on the tube, then you know where on the tire that flat came from. Mm-hmm. So it's a good thing to kind of orient the label. There's usually one or two, so on opposite sides or the same side as the valve hole. Now you're going to want to put this, you're going to seat the bead on one in the middle of the tire, and then you're going to use your fingers and you're going to just seat the whole bead. Mine popped right on. It's on there, one bead. Okay. Now I'm going to put my new tube in. Okay, I'm going to take this out of my bag. I'm just going to use the one that didn't actually have a hole in it. Okay. Usually they're going to come with some little ring or ferrule screwed onto the piece of the valve stem. Take that off. Put this through the valve stem or the hole in the wheel. And now this is the only place, well, not the only place, but this is the main place where people are going to have a hard time. You want to make sure when you reinstall the tube, you're not pinching it in between the tire and the rim, because that will give you a flat very, very quickly. So sometimes it's good to put a little bit of air into them. This one's got a little bit in there, so I don't need to. But I'm going to try and push this in to the tire as much as I can.
So if you have one of these CO2 cartridges, which you can only use a few times, are you going to be able to put some air in there?
You could blow into it a little bit and just, you don't need any kind of pressure. You just want to have something to push against so that it kind of stays in place. So now it's in place. The whole tube is inside that tire. There's no tube sticking out. And now all you have to do is start working the second bead back into place. This side does actually matter where you start from, and it is best to start from the side opposite the valve hole. A lot of times people will put it in this side first. If it's a tight tire, that will cause you more difficulty in reinstalling the tire. So start from the side opposite the valve stem. So what I do is I use my belly and I push the tire against my stomach, and that's going to push the tire into the wheel bed and give me as much extra slack on the far side of the tire to work with as possible. And then it's just thumbs, and you're just going to try and roll your thumbs to get the bead to pop into place. Okay, so I'll kind of stand up and hopefully we can see this.
Because on the road you might be standing.
So right, so I'm going to stand myself like this. Okay, and I'm going to start and I'm going to try and like roll it over the brake track or the edge of the rim. And I'm going to work in both directions. And you can hear that popping kind of into place. And what I'm doing as I'm popping this into place, I'm looking to make sure that none of the tube is sticking in this space here. Now this happens to be a nice loose tire. It goes on the rim very, very easily. Okay, you shouldn't have a hard time until you get to that last couple of inches right now of the bead. Okay, and so now what I've got is I've got about 8 or 10 inches of the last bit of tire that needs to go on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to turn the wheel around, and now I'm going to push that part into my belly, and I'm going to try and roll this over. Okay, so I'm going to use my hands and my thumbs, and I'm going to just keep working that bead over the rim. Now, this one I got to pop on no problem with just hands, okay? Like I said, it's a good loose fit on the rim. If that doesn't happen, okay, so let's pop it off again. Okay, so let's say I can't get that last couple of inches on. I can take that tire lever, and you have to be very careful here, but I can take that tire lever and turn it the opposite way and use it. I can hook it onto the rim and then push the tire up this way. So I don't know if we can get that so that we can see it. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to still use my fingers to kind of finish it. This is like, unless if it's really tight, this might be the only way you can get it on there. Okay, that last little bit, that might be sometimes what these thinner ones are
Mhm.
better for, is to just get them hooked on the rim and use them like a lever.
Mhm.
Okay, ideally you should be able to put it back on with just finger strength alone. Okay, and now we have that tire mounted back on the rim, and it's time to fill it back up again. Okay, if you've got your CO2 cartridge, you're going to screw this CO2 cartridge on. With each of these is slightly different. You have to learn how to use yours. Okay, with this one, you screw it on and it's going to puncture the CO2 tube, but it won't start shooting gas out. Okay, some of them, as soon as you turn this and it pressurizes, the CO2 is going to come out. This one will not. I'm not going to waste the CO2 cartridge here. Where's that pump go?
There you go.
All right. So what we want to do first, no matter how we're filling this up, we want to fill this tire up with just a little bit of air, just enough so that we can make sure that we didn't pinch the tire. So I put 10 PSI into this. That's not very much at all. It's very squishy right now. I would not want to ride on this. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and I'm going to make sure that this is evenly set on both sides and there's no little bumps or anything like that. If there's any little bumps, that means the tube is caught between the bead of the tire and the rim. And so on this side it's good. Flip it over. On this side it's good. I've seen people bounce them and do this to kind of make sure that everything is set nicely. Okay. I'm all good. I'm going to use this now and fill it up the rest of the way. I'm going to pump it up until it reaches whatever its maximum pressure is that we're supposed to ride with. So we're going to pretend I pumped this all the way up to 80 or 100 PSI, whatever I like to ride at. And then we'll go close the valve stem again on the tube. And then we're ready to ride. Put it back in the bike like we showed you in the first spot.
If there is something that you notice while bouncing it or just feeling it inside, what should you do in order to correct?
Good question. All you do is release the pressure. Either completely unmount that section of bead or just kind of use your fingers to, like, sometimes if it's caught there, you can just like push it. Once you let the air out, you can just push the tire into place. Get the tube unstuck from there. But if you do that, you should be good to go. All right. Always have your spare parts kit. Always go through your spare parts kit and make sure you know how to use it.
It's a good idea to practice a change of a tube before you do anything so that you kind of get familiar with it.
Yep, 100%. You should be able to do it nice and quick in your living room before you have to do it on the side of the road with the cars whipping by. So it's worth, we took a tube out, put a new, same tube back in. It doesn't wear out the tube. There's no reason not to be able to do that a couple of times. Hands didn't even get too dirty. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below and we'll respond to them and help you out. We'll also probably have a tire changing clinic at our open house on July
30th.
We're hosting an open house ride.
Yeah,
here
we'll
from
do
Next
a
Level.
ride for what, around 20 miles and another
And
one for
40.
around 40 miles.
Yep.
And then we'll have some delicious coffee after.
Yep, something for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you need to know how to change a tire, I'll be happy to show you how to change a tire.
Yeah, this was really great. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you for watching.